Wild Bill on modern composite laminate armors and their anti-tank weapon nemesis. Back in the 1950s, when laminate armor ideas first made it to hardware, uh, the concept was called glass cord. The same principle applies today with a few twists. You layer armor, one, a face-hardened outer layer, strong but more brittle, then, two, a glass layer, glass is essentially melted sand, followed by three, another, denser, more flexible armor layer, molycarb steel is a favorite when you can afford it, and finally, four, a spall liner, Kevlar or some kind of material meant to keep hull pieces breaking loose from killing the crew. Physics suggests that every time a projectile transitions between different protective materials, it loses energy at an inordinate rate. Slow it down a fraction by interposing face-hardened plate, as a slower projectile is better slowed by transitional mechanics plus flexibility plus heat-resistant properties of the glass layer. The inner layer is dense, heat-resistant, and more malleable than the faceplate, made more to absorb a molten lower energy projectile remnant. Not only that, but laminate armors are often lighter per unit of protection or effective thickness. Last but certainly not least, they're hugely more expensive. Defense contractors happy equals everyone wins. Opinions differ, but one way to obviate the worries of laminated armoring systems is the United Kingdom solution, HESH. HESH, high explosive squash head, is a method of sending shockwaves through any and all armors. If you can achieve a high enough velocity or a high enough energy transfer between point of impact and the inner layer, you can kill crew and detonate ammo without ever penetrating the vehicle. Binary heat rounds claim to set off explosive-based reactive armor modules, leaving the basic armor layer vulnerable to a second heat attack. Naturally, per weight of shell, a known limit, a heat warhead divided is a heat attack less likely to defeat armor when that half gets to it. Then there's modern penetrator technology. Ultra-high velocity penetrators must be ultra-dense too in order to maintain muzzle energy at high V, high deceleration. More muzzle energy retained equals more efficient, longer-lived kinetic energy transfer. In other words, the projectile must retain its identity as long as possible when subjected to the incredible heat of friction-based penetration stresses, plus hyperfast acceleration. Make the projectile heavy and dense enough, throw it at the armor at high enough velocity, and every conceivable method of armor scheme is overwhelmed. That's the basic idea behind modern low-sat systems research. Top attack, self-forging tantalum penetrators are relatively new to the anti-tank world, but show great promise, for every tank has thinnest armor on its turret roof and hull decking. Some of these new weapons have been integrated into experimental dispenser containers, containing or combining a self-forging projectile with onboard target identification, targeting, and homing suites. As these intelligent projectiles become better and more dependable, you can expect a new generation of armors will arise to stymie their every effort. New tanks will need to be heavier to allow for all that roof armor they'll need. Engines will need to be higher power density, meaning increased fuel consumption, more frequent maintenance calls, calling for longer turnarounds. As systems become more advanced, numbers shrink, meaning every loss is more of a catastrophe. Attritional warfare becomes economically impossible to wage. And conversely, each intelligent projectile or bomblet canister is also so expensive that a nation procuring large numbers will spend itself broke, spurring new high-tech solutions. The eternal battle between projectile and armor goes on, with unit prices ever higher, procurement numbers commensurately diminished. For the manufacturers, fewer units at higher prices sold means lower overhead, lower aggregate of wages and unemployment and health care benefits paid out to the workers, and potentially better quality control, equaling higher profits for the owners. The circle of life continues, and none can say it nay. This is Wild Bill. Thanks for listening.